Dear learners, I hope you are doing well. Welcome to the session 3 of week 1 of our course on advertising and public relations. In our previous sessions, we understood the core functions of advertising and took a global tour through its historical development, from ancient Egyptian scrolls to personalized digital advertisements. In this session, we will shift our focus closer to home and look at the evolution of advertising in India. This journey is not just about how ads looked or sounded, it is about how they echoed India's political changes, social aspirations, cultural richness, and creative geniuses. It is about how they echoed India's political changes, social aspirations, cultural richness, and creative genius. So, let's start with early traditions and indigenous practices. Advertising in India did not begin with newspapers or hoardings. It began centuries ago in bazaars, village squares, and royal courts. First point to discuss here is oral culture and folk promotion. India's earliest advertisements were songs, chants, and rhythmic calls by hawkers in local markets. Whether it weekly haats or grand melas, sellers would attract attention using poetic language, humor, and drums, turning commerce into performance. Second thing to discuss here is Ashokan edicts and royal messaging. One of the earliest examples of state-sponsored messaging is found in Emperor Ashoka's rock edicts. These inscriptions promoted ethical conduct and social welfare, a form of public service communication. Today's government campaigns, such as those by DABP or Swachh Bharat, trace their ideological roots to these ancient traditions. Third important point to discuss here is folk theatre and puppetry. Forms like Yakshagan, Katputli, and Barud serves both entertainment and education. They were used to sell goods, promote ideas, or sponsor causes. The community-centric nature of Indian society meant that advertising had to be relational, emotional, and culturally embedded, a trend that continues. Now, let us see the colonial era and the print revolution. With the arrival of British and the printing press, advertising in India began to take a more formalized and structured shape. Learners now see the brief history of this time. First, let's talk about Hickey's Bengal Gazette. In 1780, James Augustus Hickey launched Bengal Gazette, India's first newspaper. It carried ads for books, auctions, job openings, and imported goods. The ads were basic, textual, and targeted mainly at European settlers. Second is rise of Indian language newspapers. By the mid-19th century, newspapers like Amrit Bazar Patrika and Kesari started catering to vernacular-speaking Indians. According to Ad Katha, these papers publish ads for Swadeshi goods, Ayurvedic remedies, and social events, often mixing local scripts with colonial structures. Third is commercial motivation with cultural roots. Though the British commercialized advertising to boost colonial trade, Indian businesses began using print to build local markets, often using religious motifs, cultural metaphors, and festival timing to enhance resonance. These decades laid the foundation for media-based advertising in India, blending Western methods with indigenous content. Next, we will discuss the rise of agencies and Indian identity. The 20th century brought the personalization of Indian advertising, and with it, a growing sense of national identity prevails. The first agencies. Agencies like Tata Publicity and the Taram & Company were among the earliest Indian-run firms. In 1931, National Advertising Service, India's first fully Indian-owned agency, was launched in Madras. Early agencies had to struggle to words. The colonial market, where British goods and styles dominated, and the emerging Indian middle class which sought cultural familiarity. Now let's talk about influence of the Swadeshi movement. The Swadeshi movement turned advertising into a tool for activism. Ads urged Indians to buy locally made goods, often using religious imagery like Krishna spinning yarn, slogans in vernacular languages, and appeals to national pride. In many ways, this period gave rise of purpose-driven advertising, as we now call it, a concept further explored in campaigns of later decades. Learners, now it's time to discuss the post-independent India and the broadcast boom. India's independence in 1947 ushered in a new era of state building, and advertising had a key role to play in it. Now let's talk about DABP and national building. The Directorate of Advertising and Visual Publicity, established in 1942 and expanded post 1947, became the voice of government producing content on family planning, literacy, hygiene, and later national integration. These public service advertisements were austere, educational, and often featured animated visuals and voiceovers. Their aim was not sales but behavior change. All India Radio. AIR allowed advertisers to reach both urban and rural Indian through sponsored programming. Shows like Binaka Geet Mala became platforms for brand-sponsored entertainment. These radio spots were often mini dramas with moral or humorous undertones, creating relatability and trust. Television and the iconic campaigns. Now let's talk about it. In 1976, Doordarshan began accepting TV commercials. This triggered a cultural revolution in Indian advertising. Campaigns like Washing Powder Nirma, with its memorable jingle and visuals of strong Indian women. Amul, the Taste of India, featuring topical billboards with wry humor. Hamara Bajaj, invoking nationalism and aspirations. Ali Padmsi, in A Double Life, shares how the idea for Lalitaji for surf was developed to empower Indian homemakers, proving that advertising could reflect social attitude while selling detergent. This was the golden age of mass media advertising in India, defined by emotions, storytelling, and middle class values. Then comes the era of economic liberalization and the advertising explosion. The 1991 economic reform were a watershed movement for Indian advertising. Entry of the global brands in this era. Multinational companies like Pepsi, Nestle, and Procter & Gamble entered the market, bringing with them global strategies. Indian agencies had to localize these campaigns while competing with international firms. Television channels and creative boom of radio. With the rise of satellite TV like G, Star Plus, Sony, and FM radio, advertising became 24/7 multilingual and regionally targeted. Celebrities have now become central to ad narratives. Campaigns like Thanda Matlab Coca-Cola with Amir Khan, Waterfall Girl of Liril reflected a mix of Bollywood glamour and creative freshness. Agencies like Ogilvy India, Lintes, and Mudra matured into creative powerhouse, winning global awards and shaping a unique Indian brand language. This period was a heady cocktail of ambition, aspiration, and adrenaline. We can see it as an advertising explosion. At the end, we entered in the digital India and the new frontier. Welcome to the digital first world, where every tap, swipe, and scroll is an advertising opportunity. Mobile and internet penetration. Now let's talk about it. India has over 750 million internet users, and platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and WhatsApp dominate communication. Advertising has become data-driven, interactive, and mobile-first. Campaigns use regional influencers, meme culture, and hyper-personalized content to reach diverse segments. Now, let's talk about government and civic campaigns in this era. Initiatives like Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, Digital India, and Har Ghar Jal use digital tools, celebrity endorsements, and citizen participation to drive social impact. Now, let's talk about e-commerce and social commerce. Platforms like Flipkart, Amazon, and Meesho have given rise to festive, flash sales, and app-based advertising, often in regional languages with vernacular humor. Learners, today's advertising is real-time, emotional, ethical, and increasingly AI-based or AI-assisted. But the base campaigns like Favico's bus stuck in traffic ad or Amul's COVID-era billboards still rely on human insight and cultural sensitivity. Let us see some comparative insights, global versus Indian advertising. While global advertising tends to be minimalist, rational, and individualistic, Indian advertising thrives on emotional storytelling, visual richness, cultural symbolism, and community values. As Adkatha describes, Indian advertisements often celebrate festivals, family, and food, the three F's of Indian life. But both ecosystems now emphasizes diversity, ethics, and personalization. The future of Indian advertising, it is important to discuss here. Looking ahead, we will see four powerful shifts. The first is AI and automation. Programmatic buying, automated copy, and personalized feeds will increase. Second is immersive experiences. AR, VR will redefine shopping, education, and travel advertisements. Third is sustainability and ethics. Gen Z demands honesty, inclusivity, and environmental responsibility. The ad companies should adopt it. And the next is advertising goldmine, which is rural and regional India. Served in native languages on low bandwidth apps and with grassroots messaging. As far as advertising is concerned, of course, the technology changes. People don't. You still must win their heart. Learners, to sum up, from Bajaj to billboards, Lalita ji to hashtags, puppet shows to programmatic advertising, everything in India has mirrored our social, political, and economic transformations. It is more than selling. It is a storytelling with purpose. As you go about your day, observe advertisements with a critical eye. What do they say about our times? What values do they reinforce or challenge? And how can we, as future professionals, make advertising not just smart but meaningful? In our next session, we will explore the role and importance of advertising in modern business. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this session. I will see you in the next session. Till then, stay inspired, stay curious, and keep learning.